So this right here is why you need to gatekeep. Like this is what happens when people get into a hobby, and then they change the hobby to push their political agendas. Like the concept of defund the judges is an American concept that's happening. Well, it happened a couple of years ago with devastating results. By the way, like there are people who are minorities into communities that have been negatively affected by the high level of crime due to the defund the judges, right? And those people are now going to be antagonized, that they're going to be annoyed when they have to read this comic. Because I know they're not going to use the defund the judges as a negative thing. It's going to be as a positive. But like, here's the problem with this, right? You have the lore of the Dredd universe, right? Which has like its own machinations. It's got its own things. There is nothing in the lore that would justify them going like, oh, defund the judges. So for those of you who don't know, this whole thing, like Judge Dredd, is actually like a parody, or it was supposed to be like a satire of the American police officer, right? Like the brutal police. Like, that's how it started. And this right here is why you need to gatekeep. Like literally what happens when the tourists manage to take control of the franchise, right? Like they say everything is political, but they use politics in the most broader sense in order to enact politics in the most narrow sense possible. Like, defund the judges is actually something that comes from the American academia, right? Like, people on the street do not use the word defund. I lived on the streets, okay? Like, I know. The word defund was not even in their lexicon or their vocabulary. So like, this was something created by American agitators, and it was something relevant 2 or 3 years ago with devastating consequences. Like, the minorities that live in those areas, if any of you actually go there and you talk with them, they will tell you that the high crime rate had devastating consequences. Stores closed, now they have to go there and do their shopping miles away because there's no store, right? They're like a complete drought when it comes to supermarkets because no one wants to do business in a place that's high with crime. It wasn't like necessarily that they defunded the police, but they demoralized the cops. Like, that's the problem. And they passed legislation that favors the criminal rather than the victim. So, it's an issue which most people, right? Like, unless you happen to be like, I don't know, like some soy-drinking latte person that never went into a neighborhood. But like most people, even the Democrats themselves had to backpedal on this issue. So you have like this incredibly controversial issue. You're going to side on the side which has like the fewest amount of people supporting it, and you're going to now be antagonistic to the readers. And I guarantee to you, if you go on Twitter and you say you don't like it, you're going to get sass and you're going to get like disparaging disapproval from the writers. And this is what happens. And why is it the problem, right? Like, why is the problem? Like, is this going to give you some knowledge? Is it going to make you think differently about something? No. It's basically like the writers take, this is our statement. This is what we believe on the world. And if you don't like it, you can fuck off. And many people do fuck off. And this is why you have like go woke, go broke mentality. Now there's another thing, right? Like, does the world of Judge Dredd like organically grow to the concept of defunding the judges? Is this like something that would naturally happen based on the Judge Dredd lore and universe? And many people say, well, you know, it's fiction. Like, anything can happen. And it's like, well, if anything can happen, why the fuck should I read it? Like, I don't like the stuff where anything happens. Like, if I'm watching Game of Thrones, I don't want to see a Mercedes appear on the battle line, you know? Like, I don't want an Abraham tanks to just pop up around the corner and shoot at the dragons. And when that actually did happen, like when the dragons were shot out of the blue, people hated that, right? Like, people want to be immersed in the story. They want you to create a believable world and universe so that the people can live with those characters and immerse themselves and then buy merch. It's how you make money, right? As a company. But you have to constantly remind people of reality. You gotta constantly remind them, hey, by the way, like, isn't life bad in real life? Oh yeah, defund the police. We're Democrat supporters, by the way. Here's the thing. The whole concept of Judge Dredd was like this comic came out in a time that was very similar to the situation that America has today, which is like extreme lawlessness, right? I think it was like the 70s, probably the 80s as well. Like the level of crime was phenomenal. And you had like the same thing where like innocents were being mugged and robbed, and the police would do nothing, and the politicians would often side with the criminals. And like the reason the police did nothing is because they could sit in their car and eat their donut. That's where even the stereotype was it didn't come from that, but it helped to cement it. They would sit in the car, eat their donut while a person was being mugged across the street, because, like, well, if they go and they try to stop the person and they injure the criminal in any way, shape, or form, then the police officer is in trouble. So it's like, well, you can stay in the car and get your paycheck, or you can go out and risk getting hurt as well. Like, which one is better? So during those times, people really, really started disliking criminals. I mean, they started disliking criminals with a passion. And this is when you see movies like Dirty Harry come out. This is where you see RoboCop come out. This is when Judge Dredd starts coming out, and many other comic books which are literally about the person mercilessly handling criminals. The Punisher, right? Like people were so sick and tired of criminals that reading these comic books, watching these movies was cathartic. I remember like seeing in the cinema the scene where RoboCop just shoots the rapist in the dick, and the entire cinema clapped. It's like, there's no more like compassion or empathy. It's like, no, this is a criminal. We're victims. Like, please do something. Help us, right? So to see how Judge Dredd went from that, which is basically like a comic book of someone that literally doesn't give a shit anymore. Like, if you're a criminal, bam, bam, right? And now it's like, well, we need to defund the judges. So the judges have been doing more harm than good in Mega City 1. Do they care? Those questions are posed in a better world. The new Judge Dredd storyline apparently is going to appear in the new year, picking up on threads that they weave throughout their recent Judge Dredd stories. A better world sees the judges confronted with data that seemingly proves that their relentless war on crime has served no one and perpetuates an endless cycle of conflict in Mega City 1 citizenry and its authority figures, says the judges. Yeah, clearly, like this is another mentality that the criminal is always a victim to society, and what he needs is compassion. Like we need to give compassion to the criminal, right? Like a criminal never does something bad unless he's racist. Like if he is racist, it's 100% his fault. It's not society to blame. Society did absolutely nothing wrong. If he steals something, society is to blame. If he types the N-word on the internet, it's his fault. This is the mentality that the left has. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, the only criminals that they're willing to deal with, I mean, actually, you know what? I even saw, like, people who raped that got only a slap on the wrist in some Western countries, so I don't even know about that. It's pretty much like people who are against the government. Like, if you're against the government, you're in big trouble. Big trouble. Like, that is serious. And if you, like, spray with the graffiti on a wall, you do, like, some hate symbol, or you write some sexist jokes online, like those are issues. You misbehave in VR. Apparently in the UK, that's a thing. You misbehave in VR. That is something that can get you in trouble. Other than that, it's fine. It is what it is. So apparently the might seem obvious, but Judge Dredd stories have always had a dark satirical undercurrent to them. After all, the judges are unabashed fascists. See, there you go. When you use the lingo as well. The judges are fascists who have stomped out pro-democracy movements in the past. But what happens when it isn't agitators from the outside the system challenging the judges, but their own? So Judge Maitland, the forensic accounts judge, studied one sector of Mega City 1 where she was allowed to take money from the judge's budget and reallocate it on education. Crime dropped, now what? Oh, fuck off. Oh, fuck off. You can see that the leftist think permeates this. She tinkered the results. That's what happened. Like, if it was anything real, she tinkered the results. Like, the idea, okay, crime drops if you get people educated. I mean, let's look at a couple of things that happened in the US recently, right? I think, like, there's like 3 cases where teachers were hospitalized because they were beaten by their students for various reasons. Like, one of them took a switch from a student. I forgot what the other 2 did it, but still. When you have that issue, right, like when your issue is discipline, and the students, like, literally do not care about learning, You can have like the best educator in the world, you can have the best school system in the world, like you're not going to reach those kids, right? Like the problem is the lack of discipline. It's not like education. So yeah, like it's a lot easier for me to believe that Judge Dredd's pistol has a function called double whammy. Heck, I would even believe that Judge Dredd got shot in the head and he managed to recover. Like that is a more believable story than, people just get education and they commit less crime. Do they though? Do they? Like, okay, so when it comes to rape, for instance, like how much education do they need until they stop committing? Huh? Is that like a crime that's a victim of society? Is because he didn't have money? Is it? Unreal. And also, the main problem with the society in which Judge Dredd lives is that there's too many people and too few resources, right? So even if you were to educate them, they still wouldn't have jobs because everything is automated. They have robots. So the vast majority of people have literally nothing to do. That is the problem. It's not that they're not, I mean, they do have like some level of schooling. But even if you were to educate them into becoming rocket scientists, there's AI for that. There's no need for them, right? So it is just like how the thing that I believe is that the writers went to the boardroom is like, how can we push a message? Like what message are we going to teach? Oh, we're going to teach cops are bad. Like how can we do it? Right? And they don't care about the lore, the plot, or anything like that, or if it makes sense. They're just going to force it in. And this is why it makes for bad stories. Let me know what you guys think though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.